because like they all heard him say that I have to eat it if I want to take pictures.
Yes.
And all of these people are just staring at me, and I dug in.
Hey, it's Bree. Today's guest is wild woman Talor Stone. Talor is a PhD researcher, photographer, and visual storyteller based in Pensacola, Florida. As an Arctic specialist, Talor has spent a significant amount of time exploring the northern region. Talor's work merges science and art to highlight themes of transition and fragility and emotionally connect viewers to places few will ever visit. Her hope is to raise awareness that climate-threatened landscapes are more than data points, charts, and statistics. Check out her visual stories, get info about upcoming workshops, and support her Greenland film at Talor, Talor, stonephotography.com. Now on to the episode. Hey, Talor. So before we started recording, I was asking about your underwater housing, and I just thought we should just press record and keep talking about it.
Yeah, thanks, Bree. Well, hi guys. I did just buy an underwater housing. So if you follow me at all on social media, you get to see me being like a basic idiot with it because I have no idea what I'm doing, but I am learning. It's very exciting.
Low stress to practice in Florida water.
Well, thankfully, I do live right by the water. I'm about 50 feet from the water, so I can just go right outside and play with it. And this upcoming week, I'm going on my first dive trip with it, going shark diving.
What?
Yes.
That's so fun. I've gone diving with sharks. Not really. There was like one shark and it was at the bottom and it was sleeping. And my husband's like, come closer. You know, he's like, we're in the dive and he's like beckoning me closer. And I'm like this. No, I'm just shaking my head. No, I'm like this. I'm good. I'm like doing the thumbs up. Like, I'm fine. You go closer.
I don't really know what to expect. I haven't been in the water with sharks before, but I'm very lucky to have a great friend group and a support group of people around me that are going to guide me to not make terrible mistakes in the water with sharks.
Okay, but you are scuba certified, yes?
I am, yeah.
Okay, and are you an advanced diver?
I don't have my advanced certificate yet, so I need to work towards it.
One day.
I know.
Where are you going to go diving? I know, right? I'm okay. I just want to go like 30 feet down in tropical water. That's the extent of my dive. I'm not doing what you do.
We're so different because I'm like, I want to go straight into cold water. Why do I need more certificates for this? Like, let's just go dive in the ice. That's what I want to do.
Right. And you need the certificate so you don't die.
Yes. Well, death is something we try to avoid.
At all costs, almost.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some of us that tempt it a little more than others.
Been there. Yep. You're describing me.
Yeah, 100%, which is why I asked you to come on and talk to me. So just really quick, do you know what kind of sharks you're going to dive with? Where are you going to go?
I don't know a whole lot about what I'm doing. My friend has planned it, so I am just putting my fate in his hands. And just to be clear, like I'm not a full-time professional underwater photographer. This is like a new avenue that I am exploring and really excited about.
Yeah, but we all kind of evolve and experiment. Like you have to experiment to get better at it. Like you don't just become a really fabulous underwater photographer. You know what I mean?
I agree. I mean, for me, I feel like I'm constantly trying to find a new way to see something, especially like these subjects that I love and that I'm very passionate about. I'm always looking for another angle. And being able to get in the water, since I work around water so much, is just a really natural progression of my interest in like specifically the polar regions.
So this is interesting because for those of you that don't know, I actually asked all my guests to fill out this little form and tell me what their emotions are. And you said, I don't know if this is emotion, but I focus on immersion. And I kind of feel like this is why I was interested in your underwater housing, because it kind of seems like this is a way for you to immerse yourself in the environment with your photography even more? Like you're actually like surrounded
Mm.
by everything.
Yeah, I do focus a lot on immersion. I try and always be as present as possible when I'm working on personal projects. And I do think getting in the water with these subjects that I love to photograph is like a very intimate way of getting up close to my subject.
I will be interested to see what comes of this. So I'm excited for you
I am
to
too.
go out and practice and experiment.
Yeah.
And you're going to be cold, but I mean some people like it more than others. It's not for me, but but you love it and I totally respect that and I love that.
I just want to see what the underside of an iceberg looks like, okay?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
That's what I
I was
want.
thinking that. Yeah. You should totally do that. Now, I've heard that they're actually a lot bigger underneath,
They
right?
are. They are. I spend a lot of time around ice and you can see it and you can fly a drone and have some appreciation of the scale, but being able to get in the water, that for me is kind of like the ultimate view that I want to be able to have. So that's what the long-term goal is. When I bought the water housing, it was part of a long-term plan so that I could ultimately get in the water in the Arctic and spend time with the ice and photographing it from a different perspective than most people normally get. And so I'm very, very pumped about that. It's a long term plan. So don't expect it like next month. It's not going to happen yet. But
No, this is like years in the making.
yeah, I'm working towards it. And it's a good thing to have a goal to work towards, especially anytime especially this profession or the creative industry, you frequently find yourself lost, like just adrift and sometimes a little directionless. I think that's relatable for most people in any professional endeavor. And being able to set like a tangible long term goal to keep you grounded is so important for me, particularly to like avoid burnout and make sure that I'm staying on track with the things that matter to me.
I wonder if that's why a lot of us focus on projects, right? Because those are like goals, but they're containers. Ultimately, they're containers for
Mhm.
constraint. And some of us have multiples. I know you are working on a really big project at the moment, which we'll talk
Yes.
about later, or in the midst of our discussion. I think it does like a project and big projects can really help us stay grounded and focused. And also, like you're working on photographing underwater and learning how to use the underwater housing, and you'll figure out how to dive, in ice. And I think when we create projects that test us, that push our boundaries, then we end up learning more things. Like this is a catalyst for growth. I'm a huge believer in this too.
Yeah, that's so important. Also, I think it helps, particularly as photographers, it helps us escape this content production hamster wheel that it's very easy to get on. If you don't have a project or a goal or some type of target that you're working towards, there's a tendency for social media to push us towards this constant wheel of content creation where you're just churning out things that are not necessarily associated with like a greater overarching theme. It's just content. And I really resent that about social media and I try to avoid it as much as possible.
I think when we feel lost, then we look lost online. Anyway, our presence looks lost.
Well, my friends tell me I look lost all the time, but I think that's just my face.
Oh, I think you put on this air that people don't know. I think you're very driven and focused. So I
Thank
think
you.
maybe when you're not in the field, and I'm saying working in quotes, doing your photography work, I wonder if you just let it all hang down. Like you're like, whatever. I'm chill now. Are you like that?
Yeah,
Like,
I think, I when I'm working with clients in particular on workshops, I have a professional side. I know when to turn it on, but my general personality is I'm very informal. I'm kind of spontaneous. I'm not super structured. So, yeah, I can tend to look a little lost or get lost or become lost or lose things, all of these things.
well, whatever. I mean, this is like just your personality. I love the duality of it. It's really fun.
Yeah. We all have to be able to turn it on and turn it off.
I know that is true. I mean, we don't have to have separate personas, but I think professionally, when we're working with clients, we definitely don't want to be that person who's like, oh, let's just randomly go here. You can't
Mhm.
necessarily do that, And
Right.
so, having the not lost, I know what I'm doing air about you is probably very assuring to your clients, especially when you're in the wilderness.
It's safe to follow me.
Yeah, I would follow you, Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you.
1,000% I would follow you. Well, to a certain extent, because you're going to go somewhere. I've seen you like climb things and do things. And I'm like, I would not go where she's going. I'm not going where she's going, but you know, to
Maybe don't
each their
follow
own.
everywhere that I go.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. But I would hike with you. It would be fun. So let's go back to this idea of immersion because I was looking at this and I'm like, I love this idea of being totally immersed in what you're doing. And I'm talking about like maybe your own like personal, not just like you're leading a workshop or a tour or something like that, like working with clients. Like this is your own project. I'm thinking specifically of maybe even like your Greenland project, which we'll talk about. And I was wondering, like you said, immersion, you like to focus on that and that your best photo experiences include you being fully immersed and present. And I want to know, like, what does that look like? Like when you're actually fully immersing yourself, what does that look like?
Oh, I mean, I feel like sometimes when I'm so focused on what it is I'm working on, I am just in another world. Everything gets shut out and it allows me to really focus. I always look at a subject and I try to break it down into the tiniest little component pieces. And perhaps that's why I gravitate towards like small scenes and textures and abstracts because I'm really breaking down what it is that's capturing my attention into all of these little individual components and trying to give them all their own way to shine. So, I guess an example would be if you're looking at this grand landscape that's just spectacular, and then start breaking it down into each little individual piece and taking time to pause and appreciate each piece and what each of these little building blocks is offering to create the whole. And when I slow down and really start breaking everything apart, I find that I create photos that have more meaning to me. The photos tell a better story about the environment because they're showcasing all the little unsung heroes that create this environment. And it allows me to really shut out everything else and totally focus on what I'm doing. So I apologize now and forever to all the people who've had to be around me when I'm doing this because I really do shut out everything else and I'm going to disappear around a corner and good luck finding me and you won't be able to drag me back because I am glued to what I'm doing.
I love this because I think a lot of us, when we're doing our photography, sometimes it's hard for us to tune out like everything else, including the people around us. But it sounds like you can more easily get into that place where we could even call it flow, and you're able to be present and fully immerse yourself and kind of it's just where it's just you and your subject. I'm wondering if you have a particular, I know you have a lot and I know they all run together. um I'm wondering if you have any particular experiences where that was really powerful for you, including some of your like what I know you've been posting wildlife photography lately, which I totally love. So it could even be that. I'm wondering if you have a particular experience around that.
Yeah, I think, well, for me, getting into that mindset of being immersed, it's not always planned. I've found that sometimes I go out with the intention of shooting and I just can't clear my mind and be present in the way that I want or need to be. And then sometimes I'm just out having a good time and all of a sudden it just hits me. So there's a little state park not far from where I live and I've been there many times and called Sewanee. And if you're from the southeast, the Suwannee River is this beautiful blackwater river. It's really unique and special. And there's something just kind of magical about this area, but I've never really paused to appreciate it. I just go with friends and, we have a good time. But, like 2 years ago, I went and all of a sudden it just hit me and I produced so many photos out of this one weekend. I was so immersed in what I was doing. I had to apologize 1,000 times to my friends because I was like, sorry, guys, I don't want to drink with you guys right now. I'm going to go take pictures. Sometimes you can't control it, but I think that is what it's like to be a creative person, is that you're not always in control of those creative impulses. Sometimes they do run you.
I know. And it's about allowing ourselves the space and time to follow those and
Mhm.
having really nice friends who are understanding.
Yeah,
my my
definitely.
husband's like, I think I need a little mini hobbies so that when you're doing your photography, I can be doing something. And I'm like, yeah, you should get that because I'm going to like always be doing not always, but the chances are high that at some point I'm going to be doing some photography and you're going to be bored.
Yeah. Well, I think any artist knows how hard it is to get into that mindset. So when it hits, like you can't pull yourself out of it. You need to lean into it no matter what is going on, because it is really difficult to enter the right headspace to create truly meaningful art that you're able to connect to on a personal level, regardless of whether other people care about it. It's your connection to what you're creating that matters the most. And anytime you have the chance to step into that headspace, it's important that you lean into it and don't shy away. So, having supportive people around you, that makes a big difference. I mean, I think for me, also, I've been sharing a lot of wildlife images lately, which is very new for me. And I've hesitated for a while about whether or not I wanted to introduce that to my portfolio, because I do shoot a lot of wildlife, but I identify as a landscape photographer primarily. And I was struggling with, how do I blend these identities together and what does it mean for who I am as a photographer? But at the end of the day, it just matters that you're connecting to your photos. And I feel like I'm connecting with a lot of wildlife images lately, and I want to share that.
I love that you're doing that because I feel like that seems like really authentic for you because I have a feeling that you have a lot of these that you haven't shared.
So many.
Back catalog of stuff. And what's interesting that I've noticed is because these are all like marine wildlife, dolphins, whale. I forget what else you have.
Orcas, polar bears, penguins.
Yes, all of those. And because they're in the landscape that you love, I also feel like you also have created this connection to them because they also live in this landscape that you love.
It's more of a complete picture, right? Like it's creating a more complete picture of what an environment is. But also the same approach that I take to landscape photos, talking about breaking down the whole into individual components and allowing these small pieces to shine through and help tell a story. I bring that same mindset to wildlife photos, which is not traditional. I focus on the texture of the feathers or like the pattern of some water droplets on the skin of an animal. I mean, I really do try to break down the animal into individual pieces as well, so that it's not just a portrait of an animal. It's an animal inhabiting a space and the pieces of the animal that create the whole and what makes it unique and special.
I see that you're a landscape photographer, or that's how you identify, but I think really you're more of a visual storyteller. Have you described yourself as this before?
Oh, I've wanted to. I feel like I haven't quite gotten there, but I'm really, really working towards being more of a storyteller. I redesigned my website actually at the beginning of this year. And now I don't have a gallery on my website anymore. If you go on my website,
What?
I know it's called Visual Stories, and you're able to explore a story about a place. And so my goal with presenting it that way is that the story that you interact with, it's not just photos, it's informational text, and there are also video and audio clips to help you immerse into that subject. And so my intention is that anyone who comes onto my website will not be able to leave without learning something new, because I really want someone to connect with this subject on a deeper level. And that really ties into my identity as an educator, as a researcher, and all of these other identities that I have that's more than just taking pretty pictures.
I think you can take that title on.
Yeah, it's definitely, a little imposter syndrome with it, because I look at amazing visual storytellers and I'm like, wow, I haven't done that yet. I haven't gotten like a magazine spread yet, or, any of these things, but I'm working towards it.
Okay, so when I introduce you, because I haven't done it yet, I'm going to say Talor Stone is a PhD researcher and visual storyteller based in Pensacola, Florida. And then you can see how that feels.
Okay, I'll let you know.
And if you're listening to this, you already heard that and you're like, yeah, of course she is. I didn't know she was anything other.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll add the photographer in there anyway.
I will. It's the start of a new identity. Thank you, Bree.
Yeah, you're welcome. Well, if you already have that on your website, then you already are. So, but you can identify it. I mean, you also are a photographer, but I
Yes.
love that you have. I've checked out your website, but it's been a little while, not since the beginning of the year. And so I'm going to go on there now and look and help me out. So, which is your favorite story on your website?
Oh gosh. I like this story called Ali Ali, which is the Greenlandic, and it's the Latin, and Greenland also uses this. It's the name for the small auk, a little auk. And I talk a lot in that story about the importance of this small bird and how it has been intertwined with the development of humanity in the far north. So, the humans can't exist there without this tiny, almost singularly small bird. And it's a beautiful animal, but also it tells a really beautiful story about the human connection to that place and what it takes to live there. So it was a lot of fun to create that story, because I got to be in Greenland living with the hunters and kind of connecting to another large project that I'm working on. So being able to share that story was really cool.
Did you think that you were did you just create that while you were there and saw the connection? Or did you go there on your last trip thinking, I want to make this story?
It was a little bit of everything. So the origin, the historical connection between the bird and humans there is something that I have researched for my PhD. So I already had like a very strong understanding of the importance of this animal to the indigenous culture that lives there and the role that it plays. So then when I actually went during the summer, I got to witness it firsthand, which was, I think, beautiful and immersive, since we're using that word. It was really nice to immerse myself in that moment and feel and smell and hear and experience that connection between the indigenous people who live there and this animal. So when I came back, I mean, I had lots of footage and lots of audio, tons of photos, and the story just kind of came together naturally as a product of something that I just really cared about.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that so much. I love it when we create from something that we feel connected to. And there's something so like full circle about this,
Mhm.
when we feel connected to something and then we create even more about it for ourselves. Like, because partly I feel like this was for you
Mhm.
to create so that you could feel an even deeper connection, but also it helps other people understand the connection that it has and the importance of it.
I do love also that when you go into that story on my website, that you can hear the sounds that this bird makes and like visually experience them in that way. So it really does provide an immersive experience for the viewer beyond my own immersive experience creating it. So
I'm interested now. I'm going to go on. So if you haven't yet, finish this podcast and then go on to Taylor's website. We're putting links to everything in the show description.
yeah,
Let's talk about your big project. So you are doing this giant project because I think this bird, the auk, is that what it
the
is?
auk.
AUK.
Yes.
Yes. I love the name. I feel like talking about this AWK kind of leads us into talking about your big project because you were there. So you were there in the summer in Greenland in the summer, and I'll let you talk about it in a second. And then you're going back in the winter. So
Yes.
tell us, tell us about this project. I already know about it. I backed it on Kickstarter.
Thank
I
you.
forget what else I did. But anyway, I know we help spread the word about it so you can get some funding for it because it's really important. And I love supporting other people that have really important projects. So tell us about it.
Yeah, so I am collaborating with an amazingly talented filmmaker, Ashley Payne, of Tracing Thought Productions. And we are working together to bring to life a documentary from North Greenland about the indigenous people who call this place home. So it was a long journey to get to this point. It's a multi-year project, and it's loosely based on my PhD research, and it has kind of spiraled off of that. I've spent many years of my life now researching this small community and trying to understand how the modern world, including globalization and climate change, are impacting the indigenous subsistence hunters in the Arctic. I think it's a fascinating story, and bringing it to life on the screen is going to be so cool. So, if you want to talk about immersion, look, this is one of the most immersive things I've ever done. I mean, we lived in North Greenland in the summer of 2022 for more than 8 weeks and lived alongside hunters every single day, went out every single day on hunting trips with them, slept in tents, slept on the boat, slept on the sea ice, and just lived their life in a fully immersive way. And so, yes, Ashley is definitely going back next winter, and we are working towards getting the funding so that I can also join her.
Awesome. So, did you hunt with them? Like, what was the
Yes.
most, since we're talking about immersion, did you, did you kill stuff?
Yes.
I think Ashley's like, you bet I did.
Yeah, Ashley's so hardcore.
She is so hardcore. I picture,
You have to have her on your podcast. She's so amazing.
oh my gosh, I picture her wandering like naked through the jungle, is what
Look,
how I picture Ashley.
Ashley and I is a fully feral woman, and I mean that with the most respect possible. I mean, she is just wild, and I really respect, like, there's nothing too intense for her, nothing intimidates her. She is fearless. I mean, I think I'm pretty bold, but I think that I'm boring compared to Ashley.
Yeah, she we'll have her on, but will meaning me because it's just
Yeah.
me. Yeah, because she lived in Borneo, and
Yes.
well, we can hear about her stories later.
Yeah, you're just gonna have to ask her.
I know. We got to hear. So tell me about an experience that was like really immersive and like gritty for you, because I know that can be super influential to just be in the whole thick of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, there were so many moments during this trip because this whole experience of being in another culture just pushes you outside of your comfort zone at every moment. But I do have one that really stood out. For me, it was pretty early on when it was a couple weeks after we arrived. We were in the town of Konak, and I was just walking from the store, and some person who I had not met before stopped me in the street and said, "Would you like to go to a birthday party?" And I mean, how can you say no to an offer like that? Of course, I want to go to a birthday party.
You can't.
So
You
it was
can't. You have to go.
right. Like, absolutely. I'm very curious what a birthday party looks like at, this furthest community on earth. I mean, how cool is that? So it was this little girl, I believe she was turning like 9. And the person who invited me spoke a little bit of English. And whispered in my ear on the way there. They said, it's tradition to give the birthday child a few little coins to say happy birthday. And I'm like,
Oh,
cool. Thank you for telling me because I would not have known. And thankfully, I had some coins in my pocket and I show up, and there's like the little girl with her parents sitting on the dog sled that's sitting there, and all the guests come by, and there's like a line of people. And everyone is giving her little coins and telling her happy birthday. So I'm so glad that I knew to do that because it would have been very awkward.
I think I think this is what I'm going to do for my next birthday. I'll just
Yes.
have a chair and then everyone can like come up to me and just hand me money. I'm just kidding. That's
Well, but
awesome.
like, that was interesting, but like that's not uncomfortable or anything like that.
Right.
And
Right.
like I want to be clear that no people made me uncomfortable. It's just uncomfortable to be outside of your culture, because you're pushing your boundaries.
When it's different.
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, and when it's different and actually I was thinking about this. There's a reason why I like to go to new places and discover new things. It really opens up my eyes to new possibilities and then I become more comfortable with some of these things that are unknown. So I could see that
Totally.
that it happening for you. Yeah.
Yeah, and you like discover new parts about yourself and new things about the world. So, the
Mhm.
part that really pushed me outside of my boundaries during this party was that, it's a party. There's dozens of people around, and there's a huge plywood table that's like propped up on sawhorses that has this enormous array of traditional foods. And, if you look around without really paying attention to the details, you immediately think that you're just at a barbecue. You could be anywhere in the world. I mean, it's families and children and people wearing Oakley sunglasses and blue jeans and hoodies. There's music playing on the radio. It's like everything that you expect at a birthday party or cookout anywhere. But then once you start looking deeper, you realize, okay, well, but there's a lot going on that's very specific to this culture. So I can walk you through some of the things that were on the table. So the first thing I noticed was this soup. It's like boiled ox, which are those little birds I talked about
Mhm.
earlier. I love those, by the way. Like that definitely is my favorite thing that I ate in Greenland. It was really good. It tastes a little bit like duck, kind of. So,
Mm.
just go with that for your imagination, except there's like feathers involved. So it's a little bit more exciting to eat. And then there was dried whale, there's dried seal, there was huge slabs of matak, which especially in the summer is really important. Matak is the raw skin and blubber of a narwhal. This is like a traditional food that's consumed in all Inuit cultures, including northwestern Greenland. And it's like a cornerstone food for them. It has a great cultural significance. And anytime you're hosting something like a birthday party or a special event or a wedding, like you're kind of expected to have this because it's a symbolic community food for any type of sharing. But people also just eat it as part of their daily meal. So that is very interesting. It's such a strange texture, like rubbery a little bit, but it has a very mild flavor. I had someone describe it to me as hazelnut. I'm not so sure about that description for the flavor, but it's not bad. It's just chewy. And then there was like an entire tail of a narwhal with the flukes and everything. And the
So
skin of a narwhal is
interesting.
so beautiful with the black and the white
Mhm.
speckling. And it's just so interesting to see it just laid out there. And of course they also had seal meat. So someone had caught a seal that day, and it was being butchered and consumed. It was just a whole experience. And somehow in the midst of all of this, there's also a birthday cake.
That's awesome.
So it was just so many interesting things going on. And so I really wanted to take photos of this event because I thought it was just such an interesting juxtaposition of modernity and tradition and really representative of where this culture is today. And so I indicated to someone that I would like to take pictures. I am not bold. I will not just start taking pictures of people without their consent. I'm not comfortable doing that. Kudos to people who are, but that's not me. And so they said, sure, but you have to eat the food first. And something you have to know about me is I wouldn't say I'm a picky eater, but it can be a little difficult for me when I travel with unfamiliar foods. And I've been in Greenland a number of times, and I had definitely been there long enough this time that I knew that I really did not like seal and had like a very strong aversion for that. But I felt that this was like that immersive moment where everyone is looking at me because like they all heard him say that I have to eat it if I want to take pictures.
Yes.
And all of these people are just staring at me. And I just, I dug in.
As one does.
I was so out of my comfort zone. It was not a comfortable experience to be consuming unfamiliar foods with an audience and to know that whatever facial expression that I make while doing this, has a great deal of bearing on their view of me. So let's just say I took it like a champ, I think, for the most part. I tried to have a very convincing face.
Wait, I wish there was someone taking photos of you.
Honestly,
Would that be
honestly,
awesome?
yes. It was just, I was so out of my comfort zone, but that is true immersion. Like participating in a daily
Yes.
activity, being invited in and doing it with open arms, and also just such a rich experience to see all of this on display. It was the first time that I really had it all laid out in front of me. All of these traditional foods, and yet at the same time, a birthday girl with a birthday crown, a birthday cake, and there's, your typical crazy family members and kids and people laughing, the uncle who is an expert with the dog sledding whip. And he had this, and they're beautiful. They're super long whips made out of seal skin. And he's like entertaining the children by whipping cans of Coke of all things off of the ground, you know, so you have all of these things happening where it's like, okay, cool. We're eating seal. We're eating raw whale. We are also having birthday cake and with a side of Coca-Cola all at the same time. So I'm really grateful that I had that experience. It was so unique.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. I could picture everything that you were describing.
I
So
have some
amazing.
photos of the spread as well, so I can send those to you
Ooh.
for the show notes.
Ooh, yeah, I would love that. I actually love that even with you telling this story, I was putting myself in the same space. Like I was picturing all of the things that were happening. You really are a visual storyteller.
Yeah. Well, I think though that is the story, right? Like the
Right?
fact
Yeah.
that in this community at the same time can exist this tradition that has evolved over, hundreds of years and still you can have cell phones present and like music playing from a Bluetooth speaker and that these things exist at the same time. There's something really beautiful about that. And also it should provoke thought and it should provoke questions about what is sustainable, what is the future of these communities, what does this mean for indigenous cultures around the world, and it really does open up the door to the main story.
Beautiful. So, how can people support you in this project where you go and have these experiences?
Um, so this Greenland documentary has been crowdfunded from the beginning. It's 100% crowdfunded project. And so that means that we've relied on donations from amazing people who think that this important story about what indigeneity means in the modern world, that it matters and that it should be told. And so the summer was totally funded through a Kickstarter, and we are accepting donations now for the winter. So you can donate through my website, through Ashley's website, or you can just ask me. And we're planning on doing a fundraiser probably at the end of October to help get the last funds necessary to not die in -40 out on the sea ice. That feels like a really important goal.
That is a really important goal. And we want you to go there and also not die.
Right. Yeah, we're about half funded. Yeah,
Oh,
we're about
good.
half funded already. We had some money left over from the summer Kickstarter, and then we've had some little angel donations that have been made, which has been so helpful. And yeah, so we'll be doing another fundraiser to kind of push us to fill our budget all the way.
Wonderful. And then we'll have you back on to tell us more stories.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Definitely have Ashley on after the winter
Yes.
filming. You have to, I'm sure,
Okay.
because
Yes.
during the winter, we will be separate. During the summer, we were working together. During the winter, we are splitting up. And she is actually going to live out on the sea ice with one hunter for 2 months while he's hunting. There's a variety of animals, but he's famous for being a polar bear hunter. And we think it's really important to tell that story about a traditional practice that is very nearly coming to an end because of regulation. And it's just an important story to tell, like the connection of why this matters to their culture and tradition and what it means in the modern world.
I think that's really brave of her. And
Very.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I think so often we watch these documentaries, we just have no idea of what went on behind the scenes to actually get what we're seeing, you know?
Right.
So
Ashley doesn't know
yeah,
this yet, but I am 100% buying her one of those Garmin GPS devices because I'm like, there's no way. That's so wild to be out there in that environment. You know, I mean, -40 is like a typical temperature. It can get up to -60, and living out on the sea ice, that is dangerous. So, you know, she's a brave girl, but I don't have to quite do anything that extreme. I will be based in the town of Connacht and plan on making like daily excursions out onto the sea ice instead of multi-week long trips.
Ashley, we wish you all the luck because we know you're going to listen to this. So we will promote this so Ashley can have all her equipment and you can
Save
go too.
Ashley, guys. Don't let her
Save
freeze.
Ashley. That's right. That's right. 100%. Talor, this was really fun. I really appreciate you coming and chatting with me and talking about your photography and where you're going with it and some of your experiences. I love your work.
Thank you.
And I just wish you all the best in your new goals and your future projects.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. And, you know, I just want to encourage everyone listening to step outside of their comfort zone a little bit and be willing to accept the uncomfortable so you can do something great.
That's right. Go be wild.
Be wild.
Be wild. All right, everyone. See you next time. Come with me on my next adventure. Be a wild woman and join me on one of my small group photography escapes in places like the cypress swamps of East Texas or White Sands, New Mexico. Go to wildwomanphotography.com for all the details. While you're there, you can check out featured wild women, episode transcripts, and more. Oh, and I'd love for you to support this podcast and all these incredible wild women in photography by leaving a review or sharing with a friend. Thank you so much for listening.